It's strange, isn't it? How we measure a person. We see a man in a $1,000 suit, and we see power. We see a woman in a uniform, holding a mop, and we see, well, nothing at all. We look right through her. But what if the suit is just a rental? And what if the woman holding the mop could buy the man, his suit, and the entire building he's standing in? Have you ever been so completely underestimated that it was almost funny? You're standing there, listening to someone explain your own job to you, or worse, mock you for doing a job they see as beneath them. Today's story is about a moment just like that. It's about a man who thought he was the king of the castle, and the cleaning lady he tried to humiliate. But he made one tiny mistake. He didn't realize he wasn't just talking to the cleaning lady. He was talking to the queen. Our story begins in the gleaming lobby of the New Thorn Tower, a skyscraper of glass and steel that pierced the city skyline. And our antagonist, Marcus Thorne, was the man who'd built it. Or rather, he was the man who'd leveraged every penny he had, and many pennies he didn't, to put his name on it. Marcus was new money, and he wore it like a costume. He was loud, he was arrogant, and he believed that his net worth was the same as his self-worth. His favorite pastime was walking through his lobby, pointing out imaginary flaws to the building staff just to remind them who he was. And that's how he met Elena. To Marcus, she was just the cleaning lady. He'd see her in the evenings, after most of the offices had cleared out. She was in her late 40s, maybe early 50s, with kind eyes and hands that looked like they'd seen a lifetime of hard work. She wore the simple grey polo and black pants of the building's janitorial service. She was quiet, she was thorough, and she was, in his eyes, completely invisible. He never used her name. He didn't even know it. He just called out, "Hey, you," or "Cleaner," if he wanted something. One Tuesday night, Marcus was strutting through the lobby with two other investors. They were just like him, young, slick, and smelling of expensive cologne. They were laughing loudly, and Marcus wanted to show off. He spotted Elena mopping the black marble floor by the main entrance. "Watch this," Marcus whispered to his friends, a cruel little smirk on his face. He walked over, his expensive shoes clicking on the floor she had just polished. "Hey, you, cleaner." Elena stopped mopping and looked up. She didn't sigh. She didn't look annoyed. She just waited. "Yes, Mr. Thorne? You do good work," he said, his voice dripping with fake kindness. "I mean, someone's got to do it, right?" His friends snickered. "Tell you what, I'm feeling generous. You know, the Starbright Gala is this Friday, at the Cipriani? It's the biggest charity event of the year." Elena just nodded. "I've heard of it." "Well, I'm hosting the main table." Marcus puffed out his chest. "It's only, $5,000 a plate. But you look like you could use a night out." He pulled a card from his pocket. "Why don't you come? Be my guest. My treat." His friends were barely holding in their laughter. The joke was obvious. What would this woman, in her cleaning uniform, do at a black tie gala? Where would she get a dress? Who would she talk to? He was offering her a ticket, not as a kindness, but as a way to humiliate her, to show her a world she could look at, but never, ever belong to. He was inviting the ant to the eagle's nest. He held out the invitation, expecting her to blush, to stammer, to say, "Oh no, sir, I couldn't." He was ready to pat her on the head and say, "That's right, you probably have to work." But that's not what happened. Elena looked at the invitation in his hand. She slowly reached out, took off her thick rubber cleaning glove, and accepted the card. Her hands were clean, her nails neatly filed. She looked at the invitation, then back at him. Her eyes were perfectly calm. "The Starbright Gala, Friday at 7. That's very personal of you, Mr. Thorne." A tiny smile played on her lips. "I'll have to check my schedule, but thank you for the invitation." She tucked the invitation into her pocket, put her glove back on, and returned to her mopping. Marcus and his friends stood there, frozen. The punchline of the joke had just disappeared. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't flustered. She said she'd check her schedule. The audacity! Marcus's face turned a pale shade of red. He stormed off, his friends jogging to keep up. "Can you believe that?" he hissed. "She'll check her schedule. What's on it?" Mopping the 5th floor or the 6th? He laughed, but the laugh was hollow. For the first time, he felt like he hadn't won. What Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that Elena Vance did, in fact, have a very busy schedule. She wasn't just a cleaner. She was the founder and CEO of Vance Global Solutions. Vance Global wasn't just a janitorial service. It was a massive, international corporation that handled facility management, logistics, and commercial real estate. They owned, managed, and serviced over 50 skyscrapers in the city, including the brand new Thorn Tower, which Marcus was proudly leasing, not owning. He was a tenant. She was, for all intents and purposes, his landlord. And why was she mopping the floor? It was her ritual. Elena had started her company 30 years ago with a single mop and a bucket, cleaning offices at night while she got her business degree during the day. She never forgot where she came from. Before her company finalized the acquisition of any new property, she would spend 1 week working with the night crew, incognito. She'd check the systems, she'd talk to the staff, and she'd check the foundation herself. Sometimes, as she told her board, that meant checking the grout in the lobby. It kept her humble, it kept her connected, and it's how she found out, firsthand, that the new high-profile tenant in 40A, Mr. Marcus Thorn, was a cruel, arrogant bully. When she got home that night to her comfortable, elegant, but by no means flashy, house in the old money part of town, she didn't throw the invitation away. She placed it on her desk. She picked up her phone. "Maria?" she said to her executive assistant. "Yes, Miss Vance? Clear my schedule for Friday night, and I'll be attending the Starbright Gala after all." "The gala? But Miss Vance, you were the one who—" "I know." Elena cut her off, a genuine smile in her voice. "I've just received a very compelling, personal invitation. And Maria? Call the jeweler. Tell them I'll be wearing the emeralds." The night of the gala arrived. The ballroom at Cipriani Wall Street was a sea of glittering diamonds and black tuxedos. Champagne flowed like water. Journalists and photographers lined the entrance. Marcus Thorn was in his element, his voice booming across the room, his hand clamped on the mayor's shoulder. He felt like the king of New York. He'd already told the cleaning lady's story 5 times. It had become his favorite party anecdote. "And she says, he brayed to a circle of bankers, who laughed politely, 'I'll check my schedule.' Can you imagine? Probably had to see if her favorite soap opera was a rerun. The bankers chuckled, but one of them, an older, quieter man named Mr. Harrison, the president of the city's most powerful bank, didn't crack a smile. He just watched Marcus over the rim of his glass, his eyes cold. The main event of the evening, aside from the auctions for luxury cars and private island buyouts, was the reveal of the anonymous angel. For the past month, the entire philanthropic community had been buzzing. An anonymous donor had pledged $5 million to the city's youth programs, a staggering amount that had kick-started the entire event. But they had one condition. Their identity would only be revealed at the gala after the initial fundraising goals were met. Everyone was dying to know who it was. Marcus, of course, hinted that he knew, that it was a friend, that he'd helped arrange it. He was lying. At 8:30 p.m., the lights dimmed. The host of the gala, a famous news anchor, walked onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice echoing, "tonight we have broken every record. We have raised over $6 million. The room erupted in applause. "And now," the host continued, her voice dropping to a dramatic hush, "it is my incredible honor to finally introduce the person who made this all possible, the benefactor who started this wave of generosity with a $5 million pledge. Please, put your hands together for the founder and CEO of Vance Global Solutions, Miss Elena Vance." The room was filled with applause. Marcus Thorn clapped along, a confused, plastic smile on his face. He was looking around. "Elena Vance? Vance Global? I know her. Well, I know of her. She's my... well, she manages my building." He was already trying to spin it. And then, the main doors at the back of the ballroom swung open. A single spotlight cut through the darkness. And in walked Elena. My friends, let me tell you, she didn't just walk in. She glided. She moved like she owned the very air in the room. She was wearing a gown of deep emerald green silk that shimmered under the light. Her hair was swept up, and around her neck was a necklace that didn't just sparkle, it blazed. It was a cascade of emeralds and diamonds that made every other piece of jewelry in the room look like costume plastic. She didn't look like a queen, she looked like an empress. And the entire room froze. You could have heard a pin drop. Every CEO, every politician, every banker, they all turned, and they all knew exactly who she was. They knew that face from the covers of business magazines, from the boards of directors, from the most exclusive inner circles of power in the country. But Marcus Thorne, his world just stopped. His jaw went slack. His wineglass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor, red wine splashing onto his polished shoes. His face went from tan to white to a sickly shade of green. It was her. It was the cleaning lady, the woman he'd mocked, the woman he'd called cleaner, the woman he'd jokingly invited, thinking she'd be too poor and too ashamed to ever show her face. She wasn't just at the party was for her. Elena glided down the center aisle, her expression perfectly serene. She smiled and nodded at the mayor. She waved at Mr. Harrison, the bank president, who was smiling broadly. She walked past Marcus's table without a single glance, as if he were nothing more than a piece of furniture, and ascended the steps to the stage. She took the microphone. Her voice was as calm and clear as it had been in the lobby. "Thank you," she said, and the warmth in her voice filled the room. "Thank you all for being here. I believe in this city. I believe in its future. And I believe that the best way to invest in that future is to invest in our children." She paused, her eyes sweeping the room. "I started my company 30 years ago with nothing but a mop and a bucket. I cleaned offices just like the ones many of you run. I remember what it felt like to be invisible, to have people look right through you, or worse, look down on you, simply because you were the one cleaning up their mess." In the crowd, Marcus was trying to shrink. He was grabbing a napkin, frantically dabbing at his shoes, but he wasn't cleaning up the wine. He was trying to hide his face. He was suffocating. "I learned a very important lesson back then," Elena continued, her voice gaining strength. "A person's dignity is not measured by the title on their business card. It's measured by their character. The person holding the mop is just as vital, just as human, and just as deserving of respect as the person in the corner office. Tonight, you didn't just donate to a charity, you invested in dignity. You invested in the idea that everyone, no matter where they start, deserves a chance to build something. Thank you." The ballroom exploded. It wasn't just applause, it was a standing ovation. It was thunder. People were on their feet, cheering. Elena just smiled, gave a small nod, and walked off the stage. The party was supposed to go until midnight. For Marcus Thorne, it was already over. He was a ghost. The bankers he'd been laughing with were now huddled in a corner, whispering and pointing at him. The investors who had been slapping his back were now actively avoiding his gaze. The mayor, who he had been so proud to talk to, simply walked past him, giving him a look of such profound disappointment that it stung more than a slap. He tried to escape. He made a move for the exit, but he was cut off. Mr. Harrison, the bank president, stepped directly into his path. Harrison was an old money lion, a man who had built and destroyed fortunes with a single phone call. "Mr. Thorne," Harrison said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Mr. Harrison, great party, right?" I was just leaving," Marcus stammered. "I don't think so," Harrison said. "You and I are going to have a chat, but first, there's someone you need to speak to." He gestured. Elena Vance was standing right behind him, her gaze level. She was no longer the empress on the stage. She was just a woman, looking at him with a calm, analytical expression. "Miss Vance," Marcus choked out. His face was slick with sweat. I had no idea. I swear, I had no idea." This was the moment. The moment Elena could have destroyed him. She could have been as cruel as he was. She could have laughed in his face. But what did she do? She just looked at him with a kind of sad pity. "Mr. Thorne," she said, her voice soft, "that's the problem. You didn't have no idea I was a CEO. You had no idea I was a person." She held his gaze. "You didn't see a human being. You saw a uniform. You saw a mop. You saw someone you thought was beneath you. And your first instinct, was to be cruel, to make a joke, to humiliate someone you thought had no power. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sure you are, Elena said. But you're not sorry because you were cruel. You're sorry because you were cruel to me. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry that the cleaning lady turned out to be the woman who holds the lease on your building. You're sorry you humiliated yourself in front of Mr. Harrison, the man who holds the loans on that lease. At that, Marcus's blood ran cold. He looked at Mr. Harrison, who was just staring at him, waiting. Mr. Harrison's bank and my company have been partners for 20 years, Elena said simply. We've built half this city together. He takes the dignity of my employees very seriously, as do I. She looked at him one last time. Enjoy the rest of your party, Mr. Thorne. You paid $5,000 for it. You should at least try the dessert. And with that, she turned and walked away. She joined Mr. Harrison and the mayor, who both kissed her on the cheek, and they walked off, laughing about a future project. Marcus Thorne was left standing alone in the middle of the ballroom, in a puddle of spilled wine, completely and totally ruined. My friends, the story doesn't end there. What do you think happened to Marcus? The fallout was immediate. The next morning, a small article ran in the city paper's society section. It wasn't about the gala, or the money, or the celebrities. The headline was, Tech Tycoon's Joke Falls Flat as Cleaning. Lady turns out to be gala's guest of honor. It was brutal. It named him. It told the whole story. By Monday morning, Marcus had 2 calls. The first was from Mr. Harrison's bank. They were re-evaluating his loan structure. Citing a character clause in his contract, they were concerned about his public judgment and liability. His financing was frozen. The second call was from Vance Global Solutions. It was a polite, formal notice that due to his public breach of the tenant code of conduct, specifically regarding the harassment of building staff, his lease for the penthouse office in Thorne Tower, his own tower, was under review. He was being evicted from his own building. Within 6 months, Marcus Thorne was bankrupt. The Thorne Tower sign was taken down, and the building was renamed the Vance Center for Urban Development. He lost everything. Not because he was bad at business, but because he was a bad person. Because he failed the simplest test of all, the kindness test. He punched down, and it turned out the person he punched was holding the entire ladder. And what about Elena? She went back to work. She was in her office by 6 a.m. the next Monday, same as always. She used the $5 million to build 3 new youth centers in the exact neighborhoods she had grown up in. About a year later, she was visiting one of those centers. She wasn't in a gown. She was in jeans and a t-shirt, helping a group of teenagers paint a mural. Her assistant came in, holding a single, handwritten letter. This came for you, Miss Vance. Well, I think you should see it. Elena opened it. It was from Marcus. It wasn't a long letter. He wasn't asking for money or for a job. He was just apologizing. For real, this time. Dear Miss Vance, it read. I've been working as a cashier at a hardware store for the past 6 months. It's hard work. People are rude. They dismiss me. Sometimes they don't even look at me when they hand me their credit card. They just see the uniform. And every single day, I think of you. I think of that night. I didn't know what dignity was. I thought it was something you bought. Now I know it's something you earn. And it's something you give. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm not sorry I lost my money. I'm sorry I was the kind of man who deserved to. Elena folded the letter and put it in her pocket. She looked at the kids painting the wall, their faces full of hope. She picked up a paintbrush. Come on, she said to her assistant, handing her a brush. This wall isn't going to paint itself. What a story, right? It just goes to show you, you never, ever know who you're talking to. The person you dismiss today could be the person signing your paycheck tomorrow. But more than that, it teaches us that kindness isn't something you deploy strategically. It's not something you give to people who can help you. Real character, real power, is how you treat the person who can do absolutely nothing for you. What did you think of Elena's response? Was it perfect? Or would you have done something different? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you loved this story and want more just like it, stories that inspire and remind us of what truly matters, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. You are not going to want to miss the story I have for you next week. It's about a homeless man who is kicked out of a fancy restaurant only to have the owner chase him down the street, begging for his forgiveness. Thanks for watching, and remember, be kind. It costs nothing, and it's worth everything.